Hello, and welcome to a first impressions. I guess that's a good way to put it. So, I just wanted to go ahead and get something out kind of about the game in general and my thoughts on everything. So, let me go ahead and preface this with a couple things. One is, after doing my last video, I did take some time away from not the game because I wasn't playing it yet. But just even reading about it, I found myself on paper forming a lot of thoughts that may or may not be true. That's generally not a good thing to do, in my opinion. So I just thought it's out in like 4 weeks, which I think it's been 6 or 7. And yeah, it's out now. So and I've got 30 hours in the past 2 weeks. So today's only Thursday, so past 3 or 4 days, whatever that is, 3.5, something like that. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to say is I am probably going to bitch about the UI a little bit. If you don't want to hear it, I suggest turning the video off right now, because the worst thing about Dominions 3, I don't know, honestly, the micromanagement, but the UI was very, very bad as well. They fixed a lot of micromanagement coming into Dominions 4, and uh, the UI was still garbage, and Dominions 5, I'm going to say it's better, and it's still pretty bad. So take that as you will. But I will be pointing out spots where I literally just can't begin to fathom why some of these things are done. So 3 maps is all we have. I'm guessing due to the winter overlay that's kind of the thing. So let's go ahead and we're just going to go ahead and look at some of the overall stuff here. All right, so what would be a good... Oh, I know an excellent nation. So I'm actually in my 4th game right now. I'm just playing against normal AIs, trying to get a feel for everything. Yomi makes an excellent case here, though. So here you have your new nation overview screen, and this is fantastic, right? No, this is not worthless, but really pretty terrible. So there's a lot of problems with this. First off, let's just do the good. Paths. I can figure out the paths. I can check my costs. I can check my resource. I can check my recruitment points. It's going to let me know, like if I hover over here, you check the floating text down here. Can also be recruited in highlands and mountains. Can also be recruited in highlands and mountains. So it is actually going ahead and giving you some additional information here, which is good overall. And then it's your capital sites with any capital units that you have. Not always sacreds, I guess. So yeah, that's that. Now let's go ahead and do the problems. Like I said in my video, somebody mentioned immediately who was in the beta. Yes, there is a ability to see your national spells. It's hotkeyed. Now, first off, I'm just gonna start right there. That is a terrible decision on a brand new game. Terrible. New players or players not familiar with it, that's what this screen is for. And that kind of information needs to be clearly... Here, better yet, let me hit the question mark and bring up the hotkey screen so we can see what it is. I don't know if you can hear me hitting the keys, but you can't bring that screen up here. So there's actually functionality here that really is not here. That's terrible UI design. Terrible. I actually don't know what it is. I've went through and just pushed all the buttons. It must be a shift, a control, or an alt command, because I didn't go through and try all those. But that's just bad in and of itself. But there's more. Free spawn nations. If you have a free spawn nation, you will notice here that Yomi does not have any of their Oni anymore. Troops, anyways. That's because they are now free spawn. Free spawn do not show up in this. Even if I had access to the spell list, you're going to be unable to determine particular spells and what they actually summon. Now, any kind of major spells you can get an idea, but especially the summons and any kind of free spawn really need some something to be shown here. Otherwise, this is drastically under what you need. Really, the most important things probably are going to be your paths. Going into the next screen, that is, which is our pretender creation, would be your paths, so that you know what you have and kind of where you're going, followed by your national spells to see if anything of it's really good, and that you're going to want to utilize, which, because you can't see the troops from your summons, you'll never know without just starting the game up like you did before. And then the free spawns, probably not the world's biggest deal, I'd say, but we're getting more and more free spawn nations. So at this point, there's a fair number of nations. Let's see, we got Airmore, we got Lemuria, we got Yomi, Asphodel, Therados. Am I forgetting any other free spawn nations? I very well might be, but there's, oh, Rylai. There's 6 out of, so, that's somewhere in the realm of like 5 to 10% of the nations. Literally, just, you're not going to be able to make any decisions off this. But it gets worse. Now, this is probably not a thing for every nation, but being that this nation has moved over to free spawn, they really give you very little information. So if you just come to the very end here, human priests build profane temple gates through which even Oni can enter the land. And then if you come to the priest, it says weak, but provinces with temples spawn Oni. Now, there's actually more to it than this, and I literally had to go check the forums to figure this out. Literally before this video, I didn't know how it worked when I started the game. Mountain and highland provinces have a chance of spawning your, like, Kuro Oni, or whatever they were called. I don't believe they were called Kuro Oni, but they were definitely not the regular Oni. While temperature scales affect whether you get Akka or Ao, which is based off of your, whatever your temp scales were. I didn't know any of that when I started the game. I didn't realize that End of Culture is now a not garbage spell with this nation, and you really need Fire 6, which you have no access to. So I ended up not being able to cast basically the biggest spell, not being able to access a lot of the demons, which is not a big deal, except for that's the entire point of this menu. Now, there's other things on top of this, at least with this particular nation. Cold scales, they're only going to get -3% or -2% instead of the -5%. Not just cold scales, any kind of temp scales, cold or heat. So you're actually not punished by them really all that much, to be honest. I just did a cursory glance. There might well be more here that this is not telling me, but this is a very key example. And now, will all nations have some kind of quirks like that that really should be listed somewhere here? No, probably not all of them, but I could probably find a handful where that is something that, yeah, this just doesn't even cover part of the stuff you need to know with the nation. So I would say that this screen, good attempt, gold star, A for effort, but this is pretty much a pile of garbage right here. All right. I will also say my personal thought on the matter. Although this could easily be a design decision, is like if we look at the Dia-Oni here in the floating text at the bottom, we can see it can only be recruited in capital, or the foreign recruitment here. Now, you could see that these are not actually, there's nowhere on this card that you could see that, and that is very, very valuable information overall. What I would like to point out, though, is that I personally think that 3 stats are missing that really need to be on that floating text down there, which is gold, resources, and recruitment points. Maybe that gets a little crowded down here. Maybe they just, I don't know why. That could easily be a design decision, but at a glance, that's really probably the other thing that I consider to be very valuable information that I don't want to have to jump to go 2, 3, 4, 11, 16 resources. Okay, so, take it as you will. I consider that screen to be pretty worthless, to be honest. Pretty worthless, because I'll still have to do all of my when I start with a nation, all of my research outside the game, or just start it blind and try everything. So let's go ahead and jump into the next area that I will complain about the UI, because that is exactly what I'm going to do again. Is we have these beautiful new blesses. Now, I'll move on to the blesses here in a minute, but I think that this is without a doubt the selling point of the game, and so incredibly good. But this is brand new. All of this has been done, I don't know if at the exact same time, because there might have been new spells added or new blesses, I guess, iterations, etc., etc. But I think what you're going to find here is they're very, very good in general. Like, blessed units have Awe +1. Anyone trying to strike them must pass a morale check. That gives you, maybe not the newest player who doesn't understand what all of the terms mean, such as like flaming weapons, 6 AP damage, but there is precise information here, right? And then you come to something like Fire Shield. Now, there's not many like this, but there are some, and it just creates a shield of fire. There's no parentheses letting you get some stats here, and you have to understand this whole system was done at once. This is just scattershot. I have no idea why Fire Shield, Fate Weaving's definitely like that, Withering Weapons is like that, because most of these are incredibly detailed in what they do. I mean, look at most of these, and I'd say a few of them you need a little bit of game knowledge. I'm really looking at Berserker here, because so when a unit's wounded in battle, they're going to go Berserk, and it lets you know that's a Berserk 2 is what your Sacreds are going to have. Now, I understand that means that when they're wounded in battle, they're actually going to get +2 to attack, +2 to their natural protection, -2 to defense, and their morale is going to jump to 99. They will never run from the battlefield. And that might get a little crowded down there to kind of give you everything that Berserk does, but there's some of them that kind of fit into like a middle ground. You have to have some game knowledge. Well, a lot of these are honestly very, very well written out, and for some reason, like some of them they were just like, I don't know, added at a different time and didn't get the same treatment. Really, really weird. Just completely inconsistent. Alright, so we're already here. Let's just go ahead and jump into the... No, we're not. So, we're going to go ahead and just do the scales really fast. So, growth scale, that is your... Because I'm going to complain some more about the overall information handed in this UI. So, growth is your new income scale. It's up from 3% to 4% per tick, so death's a little worse as well. And here you have same amount of resources. Income, again, up by 1%. It used to be 2, it's now 3. But we see that income from order has dropped, but it has gained 2 new things. Recruitment points, which is your only way to get recruitment points through skills, and actually a small amount of resources. I kind of like this. It's a very nice catch-all skill. The fact that you are getting the extra recruitment points, maybe just a tiny bit of resources, does help overall. An incredibly general build in the last game because you're at -6% events. This doesn't unlock a bunch of terrible. You're still at -1%, and you've kind of paid for that a little bit. You can even kind of combo at something like that if you can take a small resource hit to pick up those recruitment points. Things like that. So I think it's kind of more of a catch-all skill at this point, although it's definitely there for the recruitment points. Luck, it's now plus or minus 10% instead of 15% per tick. Honestly, it seems like luck would be nerfed a little bit, and misfortune might be buffed a little bit due to that, because in the last game, pretty much all events were lucky at luck 3, and all of them were terrible at misfortune 3. Not really true, though, because events that are not going to affect you, if I already have 3 order on the map and an event pops, it's not going to give me a dang order event anymore. It's going to pick from another good event. Likewise, if I have triple misfortune for whatever crazy reason, an event that's not going to hurt me so much is going to pop just as well. So I think that's kind of a wash. I'd really need to play with it more. And then we have the heat cold skill, which is showing 2% here because I'm playing Yomi, but it's actually 5% for basically every other nation in the game, because they want you to choose which kind of Oni you're going to get. I didn't realize that when I was, building it, but that's kind of the thing here. I really do like that because in the last game, one of the scales being 5%, that being a negative 5%, with the way the scales cap out at 3, you would essentially pretty much always want to trade some heat or cold scales for some order scales. It worked out to be more gold overall. So it was pretty standard. This is here now, and it still provides advantages between movement or blocking movement. Little bit of AP damage and working very well against some nations, but at this point, it's going to actually cost you. There's no scale that just directly offsets it. And then we have the Magic Drain scale. Now they've managed to add, new stuff here to the order scales and, likewise turmoil scales here. And what you're seeing is that the Magic Drain scale, for whatever reason, still does not list its 2 additional effects that it's always had. Now it also has a 4th effect, which I will jump into on the next screen. I don't think it was that hard. You literally just put, because I believe it's plus or minus 5% casting encumbrance right here per tick. And then when you get to here, you add a -1 to magic resistance, and when you get down here, you add a positive 1 to magic resistance, because those are actually effects that come with the Magic Drain scale that, for whatever reason, when they were in here redoing this, they did not decide to add to this. It's also going to actually give you some research magic scales at the beginning of the game. Alright, so yeah, that's pretty much it for complaining about the UI for a while. So let's get into the incredibly great. And when I say incredibly great, I love it. This is so good, so good. And I like it for 2 reasons. One, the whole mindless nature 9 on everything except for some cavalry nations. Then you go like water 9, or just a very handful of nations that could make use of blood 9 for the bless there. And then literally don't take any other blesses because that's it. And it was pretty binary. Do you have sacreds? If the answer is yes, then you take one of those blesses. And if the answer was no, then you didn't take one of those blesses and were at a fairly large disadvantage. This is no longer the case. There's got to be thought put into it. But beyond this, this with the incarnate only system really kind of makes you choose between really paying for the bless and being kind of at a scale disadvantage, or being at kind of a scale advantage. There's just multiple layers to it, which I really like, and it's all firmly in the player's grasp, which is something I find to be fantastic. So I will say I don't agree with all of these in their positions and their overall power. For the most part, I feel they're all pretty good. And I've kind of been laying them out in like 2 categories. Like the 7 plus blesses. So in terms of blesses, 7, we got 195 points, so just say 200. Okay, so that's going to be 830. So that's like 162, 168 points. I don't know. I'm getting my math somewhat confused. It's like 62, 168 points, somewhere in that general vicinity. I'm terrible at math right now. That's actually pretty expensive, considering that for the higher end blesses, you have to be incarnate. Your pretender has to be on the field. So you can't just go in prison for all those extra points anymore. So anything that's like 7 plus, I generally look at it as a maybe not optimal, but any nation should be able to build a strategy around it. That's how much you're paying for these types of blesses, in my opinion. Like Aw's fantastic. Let's throw a few more points in here so I can go down just a few of these. So Awe is fantastic. It's 7. I see pretty much any nation saying that's pretty fantastic. That is something that I would like for my sacreds. Be it thug type sacreds or just troops. It's just that good. In fact, at 7 points, I think it's a steal. I think it could even be a little more, and I would be perfectly fine with that. Thunder weapons, 1 armor negating cap damage. Now, so that's only 1 damage ever, but the 3 AN fatigue damage does not say it's capped. So you can actually generate a lot of fatigue if you can get a something like a non-cap only type sacred to mass these, so that you can have, like a horde almost. The nation that really comes to mind that I kind of wanted to try something like that on would be Marinol. So, again, though, I can build a strategy around it with maybe not all nations, but generally speaking, most. Quickness, we know how quickness is. You only had a .5 quickness in Dominions 4. It's a full quickness now. So you get the extra attack and defense as well as twice attacks. Wow. Attacking twice every single turn, not just every other turn. And then I come to something, and this will be literally the only one I will point out that I disagree with: water breathing. So all sacred units are able to breathe water, cross rivers, and enter the sea. And I go, okay, that is not something that I can set a strategy around. Do quite the opposite. That is something that is a counter pick or a niche pick, in my opinion. Which leads me into my next category. That's going to be, I don't know, probably like 4 and lower, some 5s, though I would definitely put in this category as well. And I kind of consider that to be niche or extra points. So for whatever reason, I need Fire 9. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with that in a game, but let's just say I needed Fire 9 on my Pretender. So I go, okay, Flaming Weapons is pretty good. I've got 2 extra points. Fire Resistance probably not going to help me a lot against who I'm fighting, so let's just go ahead and add 2 morale to all of my troops. Extra points, it's very cheap, that's fine. On the flip side, say I'm not playing Yomi, I'm playing something with a nation with a bunch of actual sacred troops, and I'm fighting Niflheim and Helheim and Vanheim and Ulm and Russ and a bunch of the cold nations. And I am really worried about my troops being able to actually move around the map very quickly. I mean, honestly, this is a little bit of a stretch because I probably wouldn't take Cold Skills versus all of them unless I had to. But at the same time, Winter's Gift, if I just wanted to be able to really move that map a little bit better, since I know that a majority of the map's going to be very cold, 1 water point and a cold skill. So the cold skill will again lead to some defensive problems within your own territory. But that's so cheap that that is definitely like has a niche as a counter. Uh, I mean, you can see that with just quite a few of the very low skills. That's where I really think water breathing is a problem, because when I see water breathing, I think immediately niche. There's no water nations in the game, so when my Pretender is online fairly quickly, I want to be able to actually take all of the water from other players and really have a leg up within the water. Now that's niche. That's not gonna be something I can center a strategy around. That's more like I just want a little more expansion here. I mean, I could take an Awake Pretender and get literally the same effect. Or the other side of the coin, should maps happen to change, because I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but there is definitely a larger predominance of overall number of water nations. So if, modding changes at some point, or map making, I should say, and water nations become more prevalent, multiple water nations, the thing is, if I'm wanting to maybe go down under the seas and wipe 2 water nations out, and there's 6 other nations on the land, water breathing's still niche in that category. And that's not to say it's not good, and it probably shouldn't be incarnate only, because it probably should, but there is no way I'm paying like 160 to 70 design points for that kind of niche thing. And I feel that way about several of these, actually. The other category I've kind of looked at is like the in-betweeners, which I don't think in and of themselves are very good charged bodies. So when you're hit, you and the attacker are going to get 10 armor negating shock damage. you're going to need some kind of shock resistance to pair with that, or some kind of regeneration, something to stop all of your sacreds from getting hit by that 10 AN shock damage and just basically killing over. Unless you build kind of a strategy with some kind of free spawn sacreds or cheap summoning sacreds, in which case charged body's decent, but I'm probably going to combo it with something else, and that's just kind of the way it is. I would probably never take Charged Body Ice on its own. I think another great example is, and I don't know if I talked about this in my video, but Death Explosion here. So when friendly units die, they deal 10 armor-piercing damage, AoE 5. That's pretty nice. And the first thing I did is I looked at, I believe it was Maravani. I went to look and find the nation that summons Sacred Boars that turn around and they free spawn Sacred Boars nonstop. And then I thought, well, if I could get a bunch of those trampling boars to trample into the middle of my opponent's lines, and then even once they die, they blow up in big fireballs, that would be a lot of fun. But then I got to looking at something like Blood Bond here. So this is going to be 5 bless points as well. But all units within a range of 5, so that's 5 to the front, 5 to the top, 5 to the back, 5 to the bottom, so that's a pretty big AoE. They all share damage, so like literally my boars could literally be trampling through the lines, and like they're going to all die at once they get very deep into my opponent's lines, and just boom, just a massive explosion. And that sounds like a pretty cool combo. And there's other ones I was kind of looking at in terms here of what you can do with this system. But those are kind of the 3 categories I've generally been looking at them and judging them on. But there's a lot of fun things you can do. I went with, I don't have access to it here. I don't know, where's a water guy? Your water. So I went with my second game, Tianend, near Narog. And I thought, how many of these can I stack? All right, so +2 defense, +4 now. I said, can I get a third one? I said, oh my god, I can. And this is not incarnate only, so I can go ahead and pop the imprisoned. I actually had the fountain is what I did. And I then just like had a ton of skells. Now, probably not the world's best bless. Because I was looking at dropping on Twist Fate with it as well, which I could do, but it would cost me a handful of skells overall to get that Astral 6 there. So I just ended up going with like the triple defense though, and that's what I mean about this system. I didn't need my Pretender. I could easily go imprisoned. I had 26 defense glamored pony units, the Van here, or Van whatever they are. Even my regular foot soldiers, which are also glamour by the way, 23 melee defense. They were beastly. Was it optimal? I have no idea. Was it a lot of fun? Yeah, it was. Am I going to mess with some other builds? Probably. Another good example would be Russ, who I went with. Oh yeah, you can't see your second forms on your units either. Twist Fate, and then I had Fortitude, and then I had Regeneration, so my guys regenerate. I kind of assumed that when they died they had a second shape, because that's what skin shifters do, and that is their cap only sacred. So I take half damage from those pierce, slash, blunt, resist weapons, and then I negate an attack, which honestly, looking back, was pretty stupid. That's why I'm on my second game with them, and I went with this. And I'm even looking at it now that in my second game, I realized they do have Sacred Bears you can summon, because I was just having too much fun in my first game. That there are a lot of options, because your cap-only Sacreds are Berserkers anyways. They don't really have any armor. Then you have the Bears, which I believe are 10 for 8, which are Sacred Bears as well. And I thought, I could do something like this for a heck of a lot less points. And that's going to be 5 natural protection, and when they go berserk, that's going to be an additional 2, so that's +7 to my protection on something that's not going to really have any. I think that popped the Sacred Bears up to 15 protection when I mathed it out, and The skin shifters, when they shifted over, should put them around like 18 protection. I have no idea which one's better, but that could definitely net me some more points. Um, and overall, would be pretty fun, I think. And that's what I love about this system. There's so much choice here, and it's all in the player's hands, which I guess will kind of lead me into the next area. I'm not really going to go through all the different bless effects and such, and that's going to be the whole imprisonment state alongside what would be incarnate blesses versus non-incarnate blesses. And that is going to be that your pretender has to be either alive or on the map. Can't be dormant and off the map. So and can't be imprisoned. So like when I played my rust game and I went with an imprisoned, I know the first 3 years I have to be able to hang on. Which FYI, I'm going to say if you're going with a incarnate bless, and if you're really trying to play it to its maximum, I don't see these being viable that late in the game. Most games should be wrapping up around year 5, which means the game will probably start to be decided sometime when your bless actually comes online. But that is always an option. Or if you want and this was something I read about long before I quit looking at everything. Somebody asked one of the beta testers, and they said, I want the fear and the awe. What is that going to cost me with this Chasis right here? Which I don't know if all nations have the Demi-Lich, but most of them do overall. 4 skills. That's, whoa. Oh, I have the one cold skill there. 4 skills. No positive skills, just 4 negative skills. And that is incredibly powerful out the gate. Really, really good. But as the game wears on, you have to use this to win. Because if you don't take advantage of it early, your scales are just going to honestly get you into some trouble versus other nations at various other points in the game. And then there's the medium ground, the dormant. Can I survive a rush or just expand without my sacreds? If so, that really pretty much offsets 3 of those skills, and that's an even better deal. But you're probably not expanding with those sacreds during the first year, so you don't have them for that. There's so much choice now that goes into it. Even the imprisoned side of things. You could literally go with this and just say, okay, for whatever reason, I'm playing Yomi here actually. Sheikholm. I can summon Sheikholm fairly cheap into the game. They're 8 for 8. That's a pretty good deal in terms of sacreds. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go with this imprisoned here, and the center of my strategy is just to get a lot of death gems and summon up Sheikholm nonstop. And then basically use their off here to roll over players. So a lot of choice here, a lot of choice. I really like this. To me, it's very reminiscent of Agartha, EA Agartha, because they're given such good spells very early in the game, but they're very mage intensive for those national spells. The thing is, you kind of as the player choose where the throttle is. You can ignore those and just go for your very excellent late game earth magic. There's no problem with that at all with Agartha. You can go to the opposite end of the spectrum and just go, okay, I'm going to basically use all my mages to lead these magic beings around and then all my other mages to summon. I'm never going to hit late game magic. And there's that in between. That's exactly how this system works, in my opinion, in terms of the blesses. And I really can't get over how good it is, how just absolutely amazing it is. So, whatever. We're not actually starting a game, so let's just jump to the next area. You can affect the number of global enchantments, so maybe a handful more will see play instead of having to try to bump off a global that you're pretty sure that even if you do, it's a gem generator and it's just going to get put back up and knock yours back out. Pretty nice. I do like this overall. And here we have, by default, the magic scale gives an amount of pre-researched magic in a random school. Uncheck this option to spread out the research evenly among the magic schools instead. You're not going to get a whole lot here. I just generally get level 1 in some areas. So, yeah, magic scale does a little more now. Fourth effect, I have no idea exactly how much, but it is there. So let's go ahead and I'm playing my second Rust game here because I really... There it goes. That was really weird. I was not at all happy with my first build. I was not at all happy with the fact that they have so much foreign recruit that I really should have just went 1-4 with them. And I didn't really have any idea what any of these summons did because I just ran around with a bunch of troops because it was normal AI and just killed everything. And I wanted to see what the hell a Lishi was. Turns out this is a Lishi. So yeah, this is why I say the nation screen doesn't matter, because if you need this or want this, you're never gonna know. You're just gonna have to go into a game and build it to see, or it even changes shape into this bear, or use whatever the next Dominions 5 mod inspector is to actually look at the nation as a whole and decide what would be good or bad. So that whole nation overview screen just doesn't help you. Or here's something that I summoned not too long ago, and I went, oh my god, why did I summon that? And actually, Airmore, before they... Is Airmore still alive? Yeah, they are. Airmore actually came and killed my death guy because I don't have death mages who I had empowered. And I actually had this way up in my lines who's got, Bringer of Misfortune and Causes Unrest, and I had to, like, trounce it through my lands. Like, okay, I don't want that anywhere near my property. I wish I would have known that prior to summoning it. I guess the description was slightly on about it, but, yeah, so, I guess we can go ahead and start with the overlay. So, here we have turned off. Sorry, had to sneeze there. And there is the new Dominion overlay. So you can see I've warped my Pretender in to grab the Throne of Ice here. And with him sitting there plus the throne and the temple, you can see I've actually got Dominion here. Haven't quite pushed in over here yet. Unfortunately, for me, this is... it's nice. It gives me a better idea. The fact that I can't see my opponent's areas is a little bit of a problem, because when I was doing, actually my first game as Russ, I was fighting Lanka, and Lanka had like pop kill nation skells, and I got very cheap temples, so I just wanted to temple up and get rid of them. And of course I didn't have the candles on, and I was just like, I don't know where they're at, so let's just start, scanning around and finding them. And that's what I had to do, basically the same thing I would have had to have done in Dominions 4. I mean, I kind of knew where my border was at least, but I had to come in, turn on the Dominions candles, because they're still needed because I couldn't see my opponent's Dominion. And then once I had that, uh, start looking around. Where are they pushing at? Where's their heavy candles at? Where do I need to throw my temples up? We're safe. So, Dominion overlay, yeah, nice. In my opinion, it doesn't really quite serve the overall function that you would kind of hope it would. I don't know why. I had assumed that your opponents, you could see a Dominion overlay for them too. I guess that kind of may make a bit of sense in a balancing sense, like when you're expanding, you don't know if that's one nation or two because the skulls haven't fully spread yet. It sure seems like when you finished exploring the map, and I know basically, Zabalba's right here, and Machaca is right here, and Airmore was right here. At that point, I've already kind of established where these nations are at. If there was a way to bring the Dominion thing up later, I don't know, maybe you put a scout on a nation's capital for a turn, and then it will bring up their Dominion overlay or something, a different color. That would be pretty helpful to me. I don't know why I had just assumed I could see my Dominion in the overlay and theirs. going back and looking at it, I realized no, that's not the case. I had just assumed that that's what was going to happen. That is not the case at all. Uh, so yeah, that not very helpful, to be honest. We do have some pretty nice stuff. If we look down here at the floating pop up there, uh, not only do we have the income and resources, but something that was very important that I was constantly mentioning before is the different types of terrain had a chance for more sites, such as in this case the mountains. They have a chance for more magic sites. If you look at the wastes here, it has a chance for many more magic sites. Now I don't understand this because the swamps just say more magic sites. That actually in Dominions 4 was equal to Wastelands. So that should be many more sites unless they changed swamps and downgraded them. Which, considering they still hinder and they have the very low income and very low pops, I don't understand why they would have changed that. I think that's just a typo, honestly. Or you can even click on like your farmlands, fewer magic sites. Now it doesn't give you any exact numbers here, but you just generally know if you're kind of in a pinch site searching, that's very nice information to have it here in the game, not have to go read the manual. The temples, I really like the looks of some of these temples overall, and then you've got your labs. So you can see here I've got a laboratory. I had an event pop at some point that spawned a laboratory up here. So am I going to be able to use it? Probably not, but being able to see the labs from way up here, pretty nice. And I really do like the different looks of the temples. That really, to me, I don't know why, but is reminiscent of like Total War 2. I don't know where that would be reminiscent from there. Here you have Machaka's temple. You could see where they've got a temple up right here. So yeah, pretty fantastic. As far as I've noticed, all the nations have unique ones. You can see there's got a very South American themed kind of temple or pyramid. Theirs honestly looks like a South American pyramid to me too, but whatever. Very, very good looking though. And the magic sites. I really like being able to see the magic sites without having to click around. And this is great UI changes right here. I mean, it's pretty easy to see that I've got, this pretty much all site searched in. I don't think I have these couple or anything this direction. It's really easy to see that this, if gems are very important to me at a certain point in the game, this is the core of basically a majority of my gems right across here. Kalium's lands that I took from them are terrible. They're not good at all. So yeah, I really do like that, and the looks of some of these, I don't know if they looked that good before or if they've been touched up. Some of these I didn't even know what they were, like the Brook of Glimmering Pearls, which I think looks pretty fantastic now. Yeah, so I'm really, really liking a lot of the UI changes here. More information at a glance. I'm still. Somebody did point out you can read these with a pop up here. You don't have to go in this menu on my other video, which is nice. But, you know, uh, where would somebody get an idea that, a treasury and an income for important resources might be something that you want? Huh, I mean, it's, uh, it's very confusing as to why that might be information you want on this screen right here. And if nobody notices it, I'm literally pointing at the gold income and gold treasury. I'm just bouncing back and forth between them. That's a very important resource, and literally below it you have these other very important resources that literally should have the same thing. And I don't think it's that hard. It is probably now because they've already finished the game, but you just literally extend that box, move the sorceress ones down here, and put a damn income behind them. So a little disappointed in that overall, but it is what it is. This is overall, though, much cleaner. Defense is still hidden away. New players are never going to know this is here for Province defense. So yeah, not a big surprise there. That well, you just have to come to realize, like, if you just go around and click on this, the skills will show you your overall skills, and that's it. Like, nothing up here is clickable except for defense. That's still kind of tucked away on its own, which is Unfortunate. Unfortunate. Let's look at the research because the research is fantastic. So, this is just beautiful. We have the gem cost, and we can see what's global right here. On top, or not global, rituals. On top of this, I still have all the old functions. There's my globals, there's my air, there's my water, etc., etc. So, this is just the perfect amount of information. Honestly, for a second, I was like, would I really like to see how many I get per gym right here? And then I thought, that probably becomes a little crowded almost at that point. I think that they really nailed this right here, the look of it. Just absolutely fantastic. The new research method, not having to dink with these bars, is pretty great. I mean, if I'm 200 away from Conjuration 9 and I have 2,000, it will finish level 9 with that 200. I will have 1,800 left over. It will throw that all into Enchantment 4. Guess what? When I hit the end of Enchantment 4, it's going to take all those points and throw it into the next one and the next one. There's no messing with the sliders, and the numbers aren't quite exact, so this is fantastic. You can even change your mind. You can see I've already started on Conjuration. I'm not going to lose that research, but I don't know, for whatever reason, I want to go pick up Chain Lightning, which I had kind of been thinking about doing. I actually kind of have been delaying this game and just kind of sitting here for a long time. Mostly because I wanted to go through and see all of the summons. I really wanted to take a peek at the overall forging and things like that, all the way down to the higher end items there. The other real big area I would say in terms of UI is this, which is almost perfect. Almost perfect. Okay, so I want to send a bunch of guys out, but I'm sending them in two different directions. I literally had this army, and this army meet right here. And then I just was going to divvy up the troops, right? So I come in and uh, I don't know. I want to split all these sacreds up between two guys, right? So how many do I have? You don't know. You have to click down here and then, okay, so 55. I'm looking, no, I need more. There, I got it actually. That was a lucky click. So that's kind of a pain in the butt that they did that. I have no idea why the number of units selected was removed here. It's unfortunate. No need for it, because that was actually a pretty decent function. But this, other than that, is just fantastic. You can see right here, I have a fort. You can see right here that I have this many supplies in this province. I'm using this many supplies. It's actually giving us our siege strength even. That's so incredibly good. So incredibly good. As well as the province defense. Can't click on it though here. You either have to know the hotkey or come out here and hit that very kind of obtuse button up there, which again doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But look at this. Number of squads you can lead. Total number of troops you can lead. Magic beans, if you happen to be able to lead undead or demons, that'll be here as well. How many resources each squad is taking up. So this guy's just a mage with 2, so 2 nature. So he's automatically going to have that supply bonus of 20, meaning he's actually producing 19 extra food. I'm not using any with this guy. He's actually giving me 19 extra. It's all very clear. The whole placement of these guys is just so much better. The individual commanders, and they stick out a lot more. So I really can see a lot better. The lines are dividing, even though counting squares is no longer a thing. I can really make a lot, well, I wouldn't say more informed decisions because counting squares isn't so much a thing anymore, but there's definitely a lot more information here, and I like it. It's so clean, it's so nicely set up. Just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I love it. And I think this is even set up better here. So what you have here is no screens hidden behind screens. Before you would have to hit attack and then the next screen would pop up. So I just hit attack and then I select closest enemy, or the hotkeys still all work as well. I could set them to attack rear. I could just set them to retreat. I could set them to cast spells. All the hotkeys still work, so there's still all that functionality. And this is so much better. Look how they break these up now. This is very easy to read. So I want to Thunderstrike with this guy. I want to go ahead and go with an Air Power. So Air Power is like 2 or 3, or Storm Power, excuse me, not Air Power. And then I come down here. Thunderstrike should be 4 or 5. I don't remember which. Oh yeah, I'm not in evocation. So there's Thunderstrike. I know it's, about here. Since it's got the little collapsed areas right here, it's got the gem cost so that you're well aware what you need. This is just fantastic. I'm just some of these menus are done so well. And others to me make no sense still, but that's neither here nor there. I've kind of already complained about that enough. I guess we can go ahead and just look at a couple battles here. I'm pretty sure that my sound effects are a little high. Let's find my... Yeah, so I realized last time I didn't have guys to bless, so I made sure that I still brought that statue because I definitely wanted to be able to do some Crystal and Slave Matrix. That way I could still use Divine Blessing. So we see that Divine Blessing here has a casting time of 125% now. So where did I attack to? Deer or something like that. Alright, so if we come in here, you can see he K's it up. Divine Blessing's already being casting, but it has not went off yet. So you can actually interrupt Divine Blessings now. And there it goes. Pretty fantastic. Pretty fantastic. So now all my guys are blessed. They're going to charge up here and just murder things. And these are your already Berserk Sacreds. So that's what I mean by these guys could be. And they've got a second form. I'm not sure if the regeneration along with the slash, blunt, and pierce resist really is better than just like a flat. I forget, 17 or 18 protection on these, and 15 on the bear. So the bears would probably do better from the current bless, but where could I spend those other points at? Would it be worth it? Are you guys going to kill anything? Kill something. There it is. So here you can see this is the second form of these guys. And this is the kind of information that you can't get on that other screen. For your nation, you just have to come into the game and look at. So you can see here that he's Berserk. Natural protection is normally 8. Since I'm Berserk, that's this +3. If I added an additional 7 here, that pops me all the way up to 18 protection. That's also would bring my attack skill up an additional 2 to 17. And who cares if it lowers my defense, because these guys don't have any defense anyways. And honestly, the negative defense isn't really going to hurt too much when you're at defense 8, but that would really help getting their attack skill up to 13 here. I don't know. That's what I love about the blessing system here. It's just so fantastic. Like, where do I even start? What do I do? I just want to try it all. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, and where's somewhere that I've got a bunch of guys. Alright, so you can see this is like 100% casting time. Now, I actually don't have to because I've been building Staff of Storms. I actually had to empower a guy to get them. And I think you're going to find a lot more value with these start of battle spells because they were pretty valuable in the last game, but something like that having 175% cast time, being able to go ahead and just Storm Power right out the gate with all my guys like I'm doing instead of having to Lightning Bolt, because that's what I would have to do is like Lightning Bolt, Storm Power, and then move into my Thunder Strikes, which would be a heck of a lot DPS right into the gate. Right out of the gate. But where did they fight at? Musafel. So let's go ahead and take a look at Musafel. But if you watch, see they're already all casting right there, but they haven't actually launched yet. So that's going to be a little bit... They can always be interrupted right now. Seems to me that arrows, by the way, they're targeting where the unit's currently at, and with the real-time combat, I'm noticing my archers, and it could just be fallacy here, but I'm almost sure my archers are almost all missing right behind the units I'm firing at least when they're moving forward. So it seems like once the lines collapse, they seem to hit fine. See, and there it goes, and then they start casting again. It just takes a little bit of time to get used to. Oh, they're hitting their leadership back there. Yeah, so they're interesting. I found the changes just kind of in the way that things are done overall to be slightly more impactful than I don't know, most of it. The real-time combat honestly has not seemed to me to have been that big of a deal, but I was not a square counter anyways. I knew generally where I wanted something. Very, very rarely would I square count, maybe like Rillier with their Shamblers, because they're literally toilet paper, but they're so big and expensive, and you need them to expand well with that nation. That was one area where I'm like, okay, yeah, I need to actually put some time in and learn that for these guys. Generally speaking, I didn't square count, so losing that first strike has not really hurt me all that much. I've really noticed some difference in the targeting changes. Cavalry, I need to sit down and play some Cavalry Nations to realize if that just happens to be the way, because I don't have enough frontline troops. But Cavalry has a very easy time in games I've played getting into my back lines of mages and archers. Like, really easy. Even if I intercept half of them, like, even if I intercept most of them, 3 or 4 are almost always getting through my line and into my back. Which I've found to be incredibly good since Cavalry was well overpriced in the last game. So, closing thoughts, I guess. No, not closing thoughts. Huge bug is some of the very cool preferences. So, warn on end of turn. And, I probably should have just looked at the other one there. Multi-turn movement. So, I hit E on accident because I do that a lot. Trying to hit R for recruit. And the game's going to say, hey, stupid, you got 55 commanders you still have to give orders to. Don't end your turn. Now I can tell the game, okay, I'm going to end it anyways. I'll teach you. Or I could be smart and go, oh, yeah, I was trying to hit R to recruit there. I wanted to just bring this screen up, and it just happens to be next to the E button. So I love that function. The multi-turn map movement doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like this, that's pretty easy. Honestly, they're not going to be able to jump once they get to here. They're not going to be able to go that far. But some of these just flat out don't work. This is impassable mountains right here, and these guys have no idea that they need to go to here and then right up here. I think the rivers were a big problem earlier, but that might have been because they were unfrozen. Looks like it was because they were impassable. Even the ones with bridges, the AI had no idea how to do it. So definitely a few problems in the multi-turn map movement there. But you know, it's nice to have. I actually recruited all these guys because I did notice that problem right there last time. But yeah, I mean this is nice. My guy's just going to figure out that eventually I want him over here, and he's just going to wander that way. Some impassable terrain definitely shows itself to be a problem. Oh, I guess I could have said, you know, here's the snow overlay. I am a cold 2 nation, so that's why my lands are trapped in a perpetual winter here. So overall thoughts is the Bless system is a selling point for me. Little bit of cleanup in the UI that they've done, which honestly I really wish was better, but whatever. The little bit of taking care of micromanagement like this multi-turn movement, especially if they can fix some of the honestly pretty easy, and I'm sure this is just a bug of some sort. The game doesn't know how to get there, which is a little odd. If they can fix those, I mean, then they've taken care of, again, some more micromanagement. They've taken care of, again, a little bit of the UI problems. I'm pretty happy just due to the Bless system. It's not just the mindless spam it was before, and to me that alone is a selling point. I'm a huge fan of the series anyway, so I was gonna kind of buy it regardless. So that really doesn't make much of a difference. I will say I wish it was 2 to 6 months down the road. I honestly just kind of wish there would have been some other cleanups in various areas, but that's going to be what it's going to be. I mean, half of that is worthless. Half of that is worthless. Uh, Probably half of that is worthless. Probably a quarter of that is worthless. There's looking at the whole unique item still being drastically overcosted. Um, they really just over nerfed a lot of this stuff. At least at the level 8 stuff in Dominions, going into Dominions 4, and it's still not worth going down there. But I mean the whole there's very good stuff that you can forge, but this is just like one area where I'm talking about. There's very good stuff that you can forge, but generally speaking, most of it's crap, or niche, meaning you have to know when you're going to want to use it. And I wish things like that had been cleaned up first. I really wish the nation overview screen had, even if it needed, literally that alone needed another 2 months worth of work to add in the spells to where you could just click on it and see, as well as adding like free spawns and various summons. That is so incredibly important for a nation like that. Being able to not realize that, yes, these skin shifters have a second form, and that, yes, I'm probably going to be basing my bless around the fact that they have it. I see skin shifter, I know they're going to transform into something. I didn't know what they were going to transform into, but it was pretty obvious to me out of the gate that they were going to transform into something, so I just built a big bless for them. I just wish it would have taken them a little longer and some other things had been cleaned up, because things like UI stuff, I don't think we're seeing a change. It's only a two-man team, and I don't expect, like miracles and stuff, but the fact that there's no longer how many units I have here, and let's see, I want to separate again, half of them. So went a little heavy there, still a little light. Okay, there we go. That's a pain in the butt, and that's actually a loss of UI functionality right there. It sucks, but it's there. It is what it is. I don't foresee it changing, though, basically, is what I'm saying. So, anyways, I'll probably do a video sometime in the near future. I'll probably spend actually a couple hundred hours really getting into the game first. But, anyways, thanks for watching, everybody, and until next time.